Hi there, crafty friends. Welcome back to my channel. This is Michelle from LaFonda Crafts. Today I have a couple of projects with things I found at the Target dollar spot. So things ranged from $1 to $3. And I'm going to be starting with these cute little birds. Actually, I'm going to just pick one. I'm not quite sure yet which one. I'm going to pair one of those with one of these spoons. I thrifted them. They came in a plastic bag, and I was thinking maybe these are vintage, maybe there's something special. And I got home and I saw this. I don't know if you recognize that logo, but it's Hearth and Hand from Target. So they came from Target, but they're still really cute. So let's get started. I decided to go with the little bird with the wings flapping. And I'm painting it in Anita's acrylic paint in Robin's Egg Blue. It's just a really nice springy color. And I want it to lighten up the concrete look that these birds have. So I'm just going over it. I believe I gave the bird 2 coats. And I let the coats dry very well in between each coat. And I just wanted to mention that these birds came in a pack of 3. So the third bird I had already used for a past project. And if I remember correctly, the pack of 3 was like $3 at Target. This was a couple of years ago. I haven't seen them again this year because I know I had seen them like 2 springs in a row. But you can get little birds like this, like at Hobby Lobby. They have a nice selection if you want to do a project like this. They have great little birds that you can choose from. I know that I've seen like bunnies and maybe like ducks at Target this spring. So I'm just going to go through and paint the little bird and get in all the little crevices. Now the bird is all painted and dry. You can see the difference here between the original color and the painted bird. This is white wax from Folk Art Home Decor. Now I do find that with white wax, it tends to have a yellow tint to it, and I don't really like it. So what I've done, and I learned this from another crafter, I took some clear wax, and that's that bigger bottle there, and I just put a tiny little bit of white acrylic paint into the clear wax, and that will give me a nice white wax. Now, probably here I'm just adding a little bit more wax. Probably if you buy a more expensive wax, a better quality wax, it won't have that yellow tint to it. I haven't tried it, but this is what I've done and it works well. So I'm just mixing up the wax and the paint. And I'm going to paint the whole bird with the white wax and just make sure that I get it into all the little crevices. So I'm just getting into the little eyes and the lips, or not the lips, the beak, because I want to make sure that the wax gets in there and it really picks up in all the details of the bird. So as I'm applying the wax section by section, I'm also going to remove the excess wax section by section. So I just have a dry paper towel and I started to wipe off the wax, but some of the blue paint started to wipe off as well. So even though the paint was dry, it didn't have much time to cure, and I assume that that's why the paint was starting to wipe off so easily. So instead of wiping, I started this dabbing motion to remove the excess wax, and it worked a lot better. It didn't remove any more paint. I'm going to continue adding the white wax and wiping or dabbing off the excess. And I'm making sure to get the wax into the wings and the little talons of the bird. And I'm giving it a quick dry with my hair dryer. And you can see that the white wax brings out all this nice detail on the bird. And it just gives it a kind of an aged look. I chose this spoon to pair with this bird. I thought that stained wood color would be a nice complement to the blue. The bird is concrete, so I wanted to make sure that I had good adhesion for these two pieces. So I'm going to add some E6000 to that unpainted bottom of the bird. The E6000 is a very good permanent glue, so it'll provide the permanent hold for the bird. And I'm adding a little bit of hot glue, which will set quickly and allow the E6000 to set overnight. I'm laying down some masking tape, and I will place 3 wooden eggs on the tape. I believe these eggs came in a pack from Dollar Tree. So I'm using the masking tape to hold down the eggs so I can paint them without them rolling around everywhere and without getting paint all over my fingers. I gave the eggs 1 coat of Snow White by Decor. It's an acrylic paint. I gave them a quick dry, turned them over, and painted the other side. This is antiquing wax by Folk Art Home Decor. And the eggs were just a little too bright white for me, so I was going to tint them a little bit with this antiquing wax. So I just put the wax into a dry paper towel and I rubbed the little eggs with the wax. And that just cut down on the brightness of the eggs and gave them an aged look. I added some water to the antiquing wax, and using 2 paintbrushes I gave the eggs a little splatter. I did the same thing with that robin's egg blue. You want to make sure to remove too much excess diluted paint and avoid big splatters on your project. You're probably wondering why I have this bird. I went ahead and I painted that second bird in an off-white paint, and I added the antiquing wax to bring out the details of the bird, and I painted the 3 more eggs. So when I was adding the nest to the spoon with the blue bird and decorating the nest, I failed to record that whole process. I thought I was recording, but for whatever reason, my camera didn't record. So I'm going to show you how I made this one. So this nest I got at Hobby Lobby from their spring or their Easter section. That packet of brown reindeer moss came from Michael's from their spring section. And I'm going to use that to decorate the nest. So I adhered the bird much like I did the blue bird on the other spoon. And I'm just pointing out that this nest, it's not the greatest to hot glue into the spoon just because the surface area of the nest is uneven. So I'm going to cut out a piece of this drop cloth and I'm going to adhere it into the spoon because the nest will probably stick to that textured fabric way better than the smooth wood. So I'm going to use some Tight Bond Quick and Thick and some glue gun to glue down my fabric. And I'm just adding some hot glue to the corners of the fabric there. And I'm going to add hot glue and stick my nest to that fabric. So there it is, all nice and stuck to the spoon. And I'm going to use this brown moss to fill in the gaps around the nest and just make it look like a nice full nest for the bird. The moss is a nice way to soften up the project and just sort of blend that transition from the spoon to the nest. I wanted to introduce another color, so I added some of this green moss. This is also from Michael's spring section. So I just added it here and there around the bird and the nest. For the nest with the blue bird, I didn't use the green moss. I instead used a few sprigs of greenery. Now I'm adding the 3 little eggs. And here are the 2 finished products. You'll have to let me know which one you prefer, the one with the blue bird flapping its wings or the off-white bird. For my second project, I found these 2 bunnies at the Target dollar spot, and I also found these 2 egg cups at the Target dollar spot, and each item was $1. And immediately I thought it would be so cute to put the bunny inside the egg cup, but I wanted a good way to adhere the bunny to the cup. So I took some air dry clay and just rolled it into a ball and placed it into the cup, and then I placed the bunny on top just to make an impression in the clay of the bottom of the bunny. I let that dry, and as you can see, I had marked the clay and the cup to line up. So I wanted to make sure that I had the ball lined up as it should be, so the bunny would fit the correct way. So I use some Titebond Quick and Thick. I just placed that at the bottom of the cup. And I wanted to use this because it'll be a good permanent glue, and the clay will make the project more bottom heavy, so it's less likely to get knocked over. So I just press down that clay into the Titebond, and then I added some hot glue around the edges of the clay. And to glue the bunny, I again used the Titebond Quick and Thick and some hot glue. So the hot glue will adhere the bunny right away, and the Titebond will adhere it for long term. So I did the same thing for my blue bunny. I had the same reindeer moss in this off-white color, and here I'm just testing to see how I like it around the bunny. and I compared it to some Excelsior moss that I'll show you in just a second. Excelsior is just wood shavings, so here it is. And I put it around the bunny just to see how I liked it, but I decided it just looked too hard for the project. The reindeer moss was much softer and just seemed more appropriate for the bunny and the egg cup. So I used some tacky glue just to go around the egg cup and bunny, and I pushed the reindeer moss into that glue with a toothpick. So I went all around the bunny, and I did the same thing for the blue egg cup and the bunny with the bow tie. So for some budget-friendly decor, check out Target's Dollar Spot. You might find something that you could make over with your crafty skills and add to your seasonal decor or your everyday decor. And I thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new and enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments which project was your favorite, and I will see you next week. Thanks, friends.